Hey there, it's Seb by the Realtor here, and today I'm going to address the very hot topic of how do you know when the real estate market is starting to shift? If you want to know how you can tell that before it actually happens, watch this video. Hey, but before I get into all that, would you do me a favor? Would you mash that subscribe button right there and subscribe to my YouTube channel? And don't forget, click the little bell icon to make sure that you get a notification every time I post a new, cool, fun, interesting, and very worthwhile video just like this one. All right, so, a lot of people are wondering, hey, can this go on forever? Can home prices keep on rising out of control, right? Can the market stay this hot? I mean, it's been hot for, geez, a pretty long time now, and a lot of folks are starting to think this just can't go on. It's gotta let up. It's gotta stop. And especially with the recent jump up in mortgage interest rates, a lot of people are thinking that's gotta be it. This is finally gonna bring home prices down, or if not down, it's at least gonna put the market at some kind of a plateau. We're gonna have a soft landing, which maybe you've heard about. And actually yesterday somebody sent me a clickbait headline that said mortgage rates had jumped up to 6.19%, and I was like, wow. But that was actually not true. They had not jumped up to 6.19%. They're probably still around 5.19% or so. I mean, your mileage or mortgage rate may vary. But what really got me thinking about this topic was that I saw a report from Redfin.com. You know Redfin, right? I'm sure you do. Anyway, so Redfin publishes a lot of very interesting market studies, and they recently had one come out, and they said that they've seen some signs of cooling in some U.S. city real estate markets. And of course, if Redfin is seeing cooling in some markets, might they see cooling in my real estate market? And if so, I really have to make sure that everybody knows about it. So let's talk about what Redfin said first of all. So one thing that Redfin cites as evidence that real estate is cooling in some markets is that Google searches for homes for sale have dropped by double digits in a number of cities, including Baltimore, Boston, San Francisco, and Los Angeles in the second week of March compared to the second week of March a year earlier. So there you go. That's one data point. Now, you could probably look on Google and find that very same information yourself if you wanted to set up your own sort of system for monitoring this kind of thing. But another thing that Redfin points out is that tours of homes for sale in California, hey, we're in California, were down 21% as of March 31st from the first week of 2022. And that's data from Showing Time, which is the third-party showing service, which I seem to believe was purchased by Zillow not too long ago. So showings in California anecdotally down by about 21%, according to Showing Time. Now, get this. Now, Redfin agents, as you know, Redfin has a lot of agents who work for it, right? It is a real estate brokerage after all. Redfin agents in San Francisco, which, gee, that's pretty close to home, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Boston, and Seattle reported a drop in requests for home buying help at the start of the year as compared to last year, even as requests nationwide surged, right? So now San Francisco, that's a market of influence here in the greater Silicon Valley area. I mean, is San Francisco part of Silicon Valley? Yeah, it's pretty close. Close enough. Let's just say that it's part of Silicon Valley. So, if that's happening in San Francisco, a lot of people say like San Francisco is like the tip of the iceberg, right? It starts in San Francisco, goes down the peninsula into the Silicon Valley proper and farther south and east and probably north as well. So what goes on in San Francisco, we want to pay attention to that if we're looking for early signs of a shift in the real estate market. Now, Redfin also says that agents in California say they are seeing fewer offers on each home than previously. Now, this is a very nebulous and not very clear data point, kind of ambiguous, I guess you would say. So those are the things that Redfin pointed to in its article saying, hey, why it sees a slowdown in some U.S. cities. But there are some other things that you need to be paying attention to if you are looking for signs that your real estate market may be growing a bit cold. So One of those things is days on market, right? So how long on average does it take a home to go under contract, right? So day one is the day that it's listed, and day X is the day that it goes under contract, not the day that it closes, but how long it takes to get an accepted offer on a property. So I went and I ran a couple of numbers here, right? I looked at the first 2 weeks of March of 2022 compared to the first 2 weeks of April 2022 in Santa Clara County. So I wanted to see what that looked like. So in Santa Clara County, the days on market for the first 2 weeks of March 2022, 10 days on average to get a home under contract in Santa Clara County. That's an average. That's all parts of the county. You got single family residences only, all price points, right? The very cheapest to the very most expensive, average 10 days. And funnily enough, when I looked at the first week of April 2022, what did I find? It took 10 days on average for single family homes of all price points all throughout Santa Clara to go under contract. So doesn't appear that the market, by that one barometer anyway, does not appear to be growing any colder. Now, another thing to look at is the sales to list price ratio. So sales to list price ratio is like, okay, let's just say you have a house and it's listed for $1 million and it sells for $1,050,000, right? $1,050,000. So that would be a sales to list price ratio of 105%. That means it sold 5% over list price. So the sales to list price ratio in the first 2 weeks of March of 2022 was 116%, right? So that's the sales to list price ratio in the first 2 weeks of March. And the first 2 weeks of April of 2022 here in Santa Clara County, single family homes only, again, 115%. So a little bit, teeny tiny bit less, overbids happening in April than in March, but that could be a fluke, right? It could be a fluctuation. It goes up and down. It might have been 114% in February, and now here we are at 115%. It goes up and down like a little bit, not a dramatic swing, and nothing that I personally would look at and say, oh, that means that for sure that the market is shifting. No, I wouldn't say that. I think if you saw a decrease over time, and certainly if you were going to get into the 105, 104, 103, which is kind of like an average for Santa Clara County, then we might be thinking, okay, we're returning to more of a normal market. But where we are right now, the sale to list price ratio in Santa Clara County is still very, very high. And to me, that does not really show that it's a shift. But keep an eye on that number if you are wanting to know early signs of a market shifting. Now, there are a few other stats out there that you might want to look at. For example, you could look at the number of price reductions, right? How many times do sellers have to reduce prices in order to get a property under contract? I haven't researched that number for you, but that is a number that Compass, my lovely real estate brokerage, does put out from time to time. And if you subscribe to my email newsletter, you could receive that in your email and keep an eye on price reductions. But the big thing to look at, do you want to know what the big thing to look at is? I have it right here. I'm saving it the best for last. And looking at this or preparing for this video, I did do a little preparation for this. I hearkened back to an interview that I did about 3 years ago with Leslie Appleton Young, who was the chief economist for the California Association of Realtors. Now, Leslie has retired to Florida. She's still very active, doing lots of stuff, but she worked for the California Association of Realtors for 30 or 35 years. Very long time. Thank you, Leslie. Great job. And I had the honor and privilege of having her on my podcast at the time. And here is what Leslie had to say in terms of forecasting for what's going to happen with the real estate market. Let's hear from Leslie.
The things that I said today is, if you want to know what's going to happen in the market in 6 months, look at inventory. Inventory will tell you everything about where the market's going.
So there you hear it right from the lips of Leslie Appleton Young. The number one thing you need to pay attention to is inventory. And the way we measure inventory is typically months of inventory, right? So if no more houses were put on the market, how long would it take to sell all the houses that are currently on the market at the current rate of sale, right? So we measure that in inventory. Now, for those of you, who are new to this concept, historically, we have said that 6 month supply of homes is a balanced real estate market, right? Prices shouldn't go up. They shouldn't go down. There's equilibrium between buyers and sellers. And if it's less than a 6 month supply of inventory, that means it is a seller's market. And if there's more than 6 month supply, that means it is a buyer's market. So what Leslie is saying is that if we have a greater and greater supply of inventory relative to demand, right? It's taking longer and longer for the available homes to sell. Inventory is going to build up. She is saying that that's the number one thing to look at to tell if the market is shifting. So what I wanted to know then is, what is the relationship between inventory level and home price increases or decreases? And I asked Patrick Carlisle, the data guru over there at Compass, if he had any such data. And you know what? He was on vacation, said I can't really work on this right now. I'll try and get some to you later. But he did point me to the California Association of Realtors Unsold Inventory Index report, and they have that for every county. But unfortunately, for Santa Clara County, the data does not go back very far. It only goes back until July of 2007, which is only about 15 years. So what I did was I broke out Microsoft Excel and I figured out again how to make like a two-axis chart that shows like home prices and months of inventory. So check this chart out right here. So the blue line represents months of inventory, and then the green line is the median home price. And what's very interesting about this to me is that it goes to show what I say all the time, is that home prices do not go up in a straight line, right? They go up in a jagged line, and they usually go down in a jagged line too. Although we can see at the beginning of the chart what happened in July 2007. Why, that was pretty much the beginning of the mortgage crisis. A lot of people didn't really realize we were in the mortgage crisis because it didn't really hit until 2008, but certainly the market was getting very shaky at that time. And we can see the fact that it is getting shaky in a huge spike in inventory, right? Relative, the relative supply of homes just jumped up. And when that jump happened, what do you see here? You see prices plunging. That's pretty clear. You can see that the big spike in inventory led, well, many things led, I think, to the decrease in prices, but certainly there is a strong correlation in this graph between spiking inventory and dropping home prices. What's interesting, as you look at the rest of the chart, that right about 2011, we can see the market, sort of come into something of a recovery, and inventory spikes up and down. And the prices, they kind of go up and down a little bit. And what's interesting is that this looks to me anyway, that there's a bit of a delay, right? So inventory drops, and then it's a little bit before prices go up, and then inventory increases, and then it's a little bit before prices go down. And that kind of makes sense because home buying is a prolonged process. People plan to buy homes for months or years. It takes them months or even years to find a house, right? So it's not something that's going to happen on the drop of a dime. Now, if you look across the whole entire chart, like it kind of becomes a little less clear than it does sort of at the beginning of the chart. But you can see kind of, right, that there are increases and decreases in inventory that are kind of matching, kind of somewhat with the increases and decreases in home prices. All right, well, there you have it. If you want to know what is the number one thing you need to keep an eye on to see if the real estate market is shifting or not, that is inventory. So that begs the question, what is our inventory level right now? Okay, so I just ran the numbers moments ago, and the number is in Santa Clara County for single family homes, we have a 1.68 month supply of homes for sale right now. And as I just mentioned, a 6 month market is considered a balanced market. So we are way, way deep into seller market territory. But here's the thing is that, as we get higher in supply, right, when we get to a 2 month supply or 2.5 month supply or 3 months, God forbid, a 3 month supply of inventory, what you're going to see is you're going to see, I bet you, that the days on market's going to increase. You're going to see a decrease in the sales to list price ratio. And eventually, if we get far enough in terms of inventory buildup, if we ever got to like 5, 6, 7 months of inventory, we are going to see prices actually come down. All right, well, that's all I have to say for now on this topic. I really do appreciate you watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, you'll probably enjoy some of these videos over here. These are some of my most popular videos. Please check those out as well. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would really very much appreciate it if you would. All right, that's it for now. One last thing. Please stay tuned.